Opening the meeting a little late, and let's see, we are returning from executive session. At this point, there's for public input, is there anyone that would like to say anything? All right. Student report, we have Geraldine Kaithamedam, something like that.
This is my first meeting here, so bear with me.
Welcome.
I'm the new class representative for the class of 2018. So some notable academic matters going on in the school. The PISA test was administered on October 23rd, 2015, and I believe there was around 20 to 25 students that took part in that, all 15 years old.
Did you?
I did not. Also, the guidance counselor's office is providing an opportunity for students to take a free SAT/ACT combo practice test held by the Kaplan Test Prep to help students decide between the new SAT or the ACT, and that's held at Merrimack College at 9 a.m. on November 14th. There's also going to be a speaker coming to the school on Friday, November 13th in the DLL, speaking about the Armenian genocide. And the Student Council recently wrapped up their food pantry collection and surpassed their goal of 5,000 items, which was a huge success. Some notable fine art matters. All the roles have been chosen for the cast of A Christmas Story, and now they're just working on their scenes. The dates have been set for December 4th, 5th, 11th, and 12th. And on the 4th, the original cast is going to be coming and watching. Some notable athletic matters. The cheerleading team had a competition this past weekend against Linfield, Newburyport, and a few other Cal teams, and they placed second overall. This is their second competition, and they placed first overall in the last one, and they were crowned grand champs. Girls soccer wrapped up their regular season with a record of 13-2-2, and they're now headed into a week of practices and scrimmages before their first state playoff game this Wednesday against Shawsheen Tech. The boys soccer finished their regular season 7-4-7, and their states games will also begin this week. Football won their first playoff game, 41-3, against Ipswich, and their next game is on Friday at home versus Watertown at 7 p.m. Field hockey also qualified for states with a 1-0 win this past week with a goal from Julia McDonald. And the varsity volleyball team ended their season 8-11, and they were only 1 point from qualifying for states. So overall, sports was a really good season. Other things are a hypnotist named Dan Candle is coming to our school on Thursday, November 5th, and this is sponsored by Dollars for Scholars. And this past Thursday, pictures for yearbooks, superlatives, and for clubs were taken. For a student report, I brought in a piece of work that we're working on in my creative writing class, and throughout the year, we're going to be working on making a story, and so we started off with like a character description sort of thing, and so the whole idea is every single class will bring in a draft, and we workshop it, so the entire class reads our pages out loud, and then they give us some tips on how to work on it so that we can get input from everyone, and there's also a rubric that goes along with it, so if you want to look at them.
You did very good.
Excellent job. That was your first time.
Did your brother, like, give you pointers?
Yeah.
Is this a competition then with you and your brother? Yeah.
Good for you, Geraldine.
Well, congratulations to all the sports teams. We had a good season.
Yeah, it was a really good season.
Wish them the best of luck in the playoffs. And
Busy
congratulations to the field hockey team, who I think it's the first time they've made the playoffs since we
It's the first
reinstated
time.
Field hockey 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It's good.
It's a good season.
I heard Sean Delaney did very well.
Yeah, he did well.
I think we talked
Ryan.
about that the
Ryan
last
Delaney,
meeting.
Ryan
Delaney,
yeah.
yes.
In golf.
Sean not so
No,
well.
Sean did so well.
Yeah.
Fourth
What-
place, I believe, in states,
In
yeah.
Yeah.
Fourth,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Did very well.
Very good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Yeah, you do not have to stay.
I'll get that.
Unless you're being punished for something.
I'll get that.
Unless you want to
I'll
show
get
up your brother and, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the SSBC update. Superintendent Bernard?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So a few things to note for you this evening. First is that there is an extensive amount of punch list work still going on at the middle high school project. That work is continuing mostly in the afternoon and evening hours. I would say that the latest update I got on last Thursday is that things are progressing well. While there's still a lot to tend to, they expect to be on site at least through the end of this month. I was told by our project manager last week that the Thanksgiving break, we'll see a lot of punch list items being attended to, too, where the school will be certainly a lot less populated over those 4 days. The demolition of the former high school work is substantially complete, very much on schedule. Site work continues. I think anybody who drives by will see that the site prep work is going very well. We've had some good news there as far as any ledge. Let's hope that continues into the next few weeks as that part of the project comes to a close. The restoration of that former site, the site of the former high school, continues at an ever-increasing pace. That work will continue through the end of the calendar year, and there will be a lot of landscaping to take place in the spring. That same meeting last Thursday with our project manager indicated to me, and Mr. Venezia, you might know this from the meeting that was held in the morning, that there are some very good indications that there could be some significant prep work at that site of the binder coat of the parking lots for the end of the calendar year. So they're hoping to know that more specifically this week, as long as the contractor is able to have the equipment that he needs on site, Manafort, that can continue. So we're hopeful of that. The new crosswalk that had been a source of contention, I think, for folks for a while, has been installed at the base of the access road. If you're wondering, we do have signs being ordered. I asked Wayne Hardiker to order 2 signs for that side, that crosswalk. I was able to get the police chief to recommend to me a sign that he thought would be appropriate, and it was over at the kids spot over near Moynihan Lumber that I went down. I took a picture of that and gave that to our supervisor of buildings and grounds. So he has ordered 2 signs. The posts are in, and we expect that those, I'll call them safety signs, kind of a yield to pedestrians and crosswalk signs for both going out and coming in, should be installed upon receipt of those. And that's all I have with respect to the building project.
Very good.
I think the indication in the site meeting last Thursday was that by the end of the year, we should have everything except for loam and grass planted and plantings.
Good.
That everything, all the
Parking
curbs
lots.
and.
The parking lot should be should be paved, the curbing should be installed, the lights should be installed and operational.
Excellent.
So-
Light poles out, but it was.
Correct. The poles are up, but the
Early-
power is not too.
Well, there's
Right,
additional
okay.
lights that will be going into the rest of the area that they're
Oh,
working
in
on
the
now,
parking.
and the grading,
Okay.
yeah.
Very good.
Very good.
Okay. We have a teacher and a couple of students here to do a presentation or to speak about a possible trip.
So, Madam Chair, we have Mr. Pinsopoulos, who's one of our social studies teachers and also the advisor to the Model UN, and Emily Zhang and Ben Hui. So who's...
Thank you for pronouncing.
I'll start.
Delayed it.
Yeah, thanks for having us here today. My name is Satiti Pinsopoulos. I'm the advisor for the Model United Nations. I'm also a social studies teacher here at the high school. We're actually here to ask permission to go on a field trip. It's scheduled for the latter part of January. It would be from Thursday, January 28th through Sunday, January 31st. We were invited and accepted to take part in this year's Harvard Model United Nations Conference. It's hosted by Harvard College every year, and they host it at the Sheraton in Back Bay, Boston. Students from all over the world, about half of the states in the U.S. are represented, and then another 30 or so countries from around the world. There are about 2,000 students that take part. We were accepted this year to represent the country of Belgium, and this would be the 4th time we were accepted. Once we were the Gambia, once Uzbekistan, and just this past year, Bolivia. The way it works is schools from around the world come in and represent a nation. We were picked to be Belgium, and we can bring anywhere from 14 to 16 students to take part in the event. Emily and Ben here are both 2 of the officers in the club. I'll give them a moment to speak after I give you the brief overview of what the event entails, but it's 3 nights overnight, 4 days in Boston. It's funded and paid for by the students. It pays for the registration fees, the costs of hotel stay, and they bring money to pay for their meals throughout the week as well. We come to ask for permission because it is an overnight trip out of school. We would be leaving Thursday around lunchtime. We would miss power block and last block on Thursday and the entirety of that Friday on Friday the 29th. I did print out about 20 tentative conference schedules if anyone up front or around the room would like to take a look. It's tentative, but it's pretty much going to be as is. This is, I believe, the 54th, 58th, somewhere in the 50s. Harvard's been putting on this event, and the schedule's been pretty standard for the past few years. mean, that's a brief overview. We're here to answer any questions you have. I brought 2 students with me to speak on behalf of their experience, our hopeful experience in the event. Emily has gone once before. She was part of the delegation last year, and Ben is one of the students here at North Reading who would like to take part this year.
Hi, I'm Emily Zhang. I'm the president of Model UN at North Reading High School, and I attended HMON my freshman and sophomore year, and every time that I've went so far, it has always been an incredible experience. I can definitely advocate that it's not only a learning experience of learning the protocols and rules of how to debate and discuss with other students around the world and the countries, but also a life experience. You definitely meet new people, again, all around the world, and half of the states are there represented, and just communicating and creating relationships that are lifelong. So it's definitely an incredible experience for newcomers of the club, and also previous members of the club that have been doing it for a long time. So I definitely recommend that we should go again this year and take the role of Belgium and conquer.
So I didn't get to go last year. I guess I just wasn't up to standard. When I first joined the club, I really wanted to go to Harvard because this is a chance to sort of compare yourself to students from all around the world, not competitively or maliciously, but in a way to see if you can cooperate, if you have good ideas that other people accept. And I've been observing a lot of the students that came to the club these past 2 months, and a lot of them are really passionate, they're really thoughtful, they really think about what they want for the countries that we pretend to represent. And I just think that they all deserve to come on this conference because they all, I see that they all work really hard, they're all really interested in this information. So I think it'd be a great chance for everybody to explore their talents. Thank you.
My daughter attended it for a couple of years at the school that she attended, and she just thought it was fabulous, and the wealth of information and camaraderie and everything that she learned, she has taken it forward into her college education and career. I know that you guys represent a country, and you're kind of are grouped with other countries, is that correct? And what is the grouping? Is it to become like a superpower or a United Nation? And how do you go about doing that?
I know Emily went to it last year. She represented which committee?
The World Conference on Women. I don't know. So
You could speak to that.
yeah, I was representing Bolivia, and that was the committee I was a part of. So I was on World Conference on Women. And in that conference, there are other countries that are represented by different students. So the other countries, we all came together in a conference room, and we were that committee. So in HMON, there are different committees with different countries represented. So I know there's special political and decolonization. So there's various committees. So that's how it's kind of divided.
Okay.
So there's all different countries in each committee.
You have 2,000 students at the Sheridan. They take all the conference rooms there, and each room is a different committee. So some rooms may have up to 200 students, like disarmament and international security is a big United Nations subcommittee, legal committee, World Health Organization. There are some specialized smaller committees. Obviously, being in Belgium, one of those would be the European Union. So there would be 2 students representing each of the 28 countries in the EU now. So that's a smaller room, maybe 56 students total. There's a variety, and it depends on the country you are. Last time we were Bolivia, so we were on the Organization of Latin American States. This year, being in Belgium, we'll be in the EU and also in the OECD countries. Only specific countries are in those committees, so it all depends the country that you're in.
Interesting. And does the United Nations take any of your suggestions and the things that you come up with?
What do you guys think?
If only.
It'd be a better world, right?
I assume there's a lot of preparation that goes in as far as research and investigating. Can you share a little bit about that, what that process is like?
Yeah, definitely. There's a ton of research that we have to put into this and going to the conference. like if we were accepted to go, we have meetings and we would prepare and research on our country and our committee. I don't know.
We get packets of background information on the committees and topics that we're assigned to, and these are actually prepared by Harvard students that are in their senior year. This is part of one of their projects, and we're planning on being a lot more extensive this year. Last year we only did research and group work after school on a weekly basis, but this year we're planning on having power block research sessions it's optional for students. They can come if they have time. And we're also still planning to have those after-school meetings that we had each week. So there's a lot of research that goes on. It's all about history, politics, relations between countries that we expect to be interacting with. We take into account a lot of current affairs, current events that have happened, and those actually all influence what we study.
Very interesting.
I was going to make a motion if everybody was through. Madam Chair, I'd move to approve the Model UN Club trip to the Model United Nations Conference in Boston on January 28th through the 31st.
Second.
Good. Any further discussion, questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0.
Good luck, guys.
Would you like to introduce?
Sure, Madam Chairman, I'm happy to welcome and introduce to you all three folks from the Northeast Metro Tech School. First is Judy Diamond, who is North Reading's representative to the school committee for the Northeast Metro Tech, and also the superintendent director is Ted Nickley, whom I have known for a long, long time. Welcome, Ted. And also the principal of the school is Mr. Dave DeBarry. So the three of them are here this evening. They have a presentation for you, which includes about an 8 or 9 minute video clip. Am I right, Dave? We had, these folks showed up here last year because of the interest that they have in a building project, and they wanted to get a little tour of ours. At that time was just the high school. So I took them through, and I think they were quite impressed and pleased with what they saw. And we had done the same thing when we were going through the building project. But I think they also want to talk to you about the educational program and specifically the vocational training program that's available to students at the Northeast Metro Tech. So you have a presentation up here, Ted? Mr. DeBarry.
Okay, yeah.
We've got a...
This is the video that we show your 8th graders in the middle school, so we thought it was important for you folks to be able to see what we present to your students.
That was the best thing I ever had.
Tell me when you're ready. Go right ahead. Okay, no problem.
This is not your traditional school.
Very good.
This is not your traditional school.
This is really not your traditional school.
Now that we have your attention,
All right, so what's the next thing we do?
we're going to make an assumption.
All right, go ahead.
We're going to assume that you, the viewer, are one of the following.
This is going to be a little bit different.
You're either an 8th grader, or you're the friend of an 8th grader. What else? Maybe you're the parent of an 8th grader, or you know of an 8th grader.
Does that make sense?
In any case, high school is just around the corner. decision will have to be made as to where to go. What you're seeing right now is one of your options. Northeast Metropolitan Regional Vocational Technical School.
Well, Northeast Regional Vocational School, where do I start? It's a combination of 12 different cities and towns, and we have students that come from all of them.
Students at Northeast study automotive collision repair and refinish, automotive technology, carpentry, cosmetology, culinary arts, dental assistant, design and visual communication, drafting and design, early childhood education, electricity, graphic communication, house assistant, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, metal fabrication, office technology, and plumbing and pipe fitting.
Students work 1 week in shop, and they have 1 week off, and I know a lot of our students enjoy that.
What do we know about carbon?
Is it alive?
They like having the opportunity to learn and work within a career tech area.
What we call the fascia board.
Just be careful here, just slow it down just a little bit, Daria, okay?
And still get their academics.
We have all the information we need right here.
Y comes out equaling -3.
This is hands-on training. This isn't just about theory. This is about, here's the project, now it's up to you to learn the theory and actually get it done.
If you attend Northeast when you become a senior, you may qualify for the Cooperative Education Program, or co-op. The schedule for co-op students is slightly different. Instead of being in a shop every other week, co-op students swap that week out and replace it with a full-time job in their field, in the real world, making real dollars. Co-op schedules look like this. Fun job. So what should you study? What should you go for? To help you decide, Northeast has a plan called the Exploratory Program. Remember that list of 16 classes you saw a moment ago? Well, as a freshman, you'll participate in 15 of them. You choose 8, and Northeast chooses the other 7. It's like test driving a car.
All right, so what's the next thing we do?
Well, when I came to school, I thought I wanted to do plumbing, and then after going through all the shops, I changed my mind, and drafting is kind of what I wanted to do. So it's good. You might want to come with your mindset, but after going through all the shops, you change your mind.
I wanted to start off actually hairdressing, but like going through all the different shops, it opened like my eyes and figured out which one I wanted to do, and I wanted to do dental, I like all culinary, and I like cooking, I like baking, so I picked culinary.
So I've been thinking about what I want to do in the future, what colleges and what paths I want to take as a career. And me getting experience at Northeast, I really I've come down to one path which I want to take, which is engineering. Now I can focus on that one path and for colleges and future references.
So there's a whole other part of the school which is really about putting together what a student's interests are, along with their academics, and putting their skills to work and their competencies, and really coming up with a career pathway.
You're going to need this, gentlemen.
We give them so much information about real life, what's going on out there, what are apprenticeships, what majors are there in college where I can go on for what I want to do, how do I get where I want to go, what are my options.
Most of my students are 100% positive placement. They go on to different careers. For instance, with the healthcare, they be with their certified nursing assistant. They can work in nursing facilities.
There you go. Are you comfortable?
As well as go on to post-secondary clinic to become a nurse, neonatal nurse, pediatrician, many of them want to be. I work in the dental shop, they do dental hygiene, a teacher, carpenters, you name it.
Listen, everybody's going to have a job.
We try to find their strengths, hone in on them, and then get them settled for when they leave.
I use the expression all the time with our students that success is never an accident. And that's really true, because your success is only going to be determined by what you put into it.
This is where this kid is at, so let's listen to what happens.
My name is Christopher Shrimp. I'm the owner of Shrimp Welding and Fabrication. Graduated Northeast Folk, class of 07. Northeast Folk gave me the ability to become an entrepreneur in the welding and fabrication business. In the future, we're open to expand and take more graduates of Northeast Folk in possibility of a cooperative program and be able to expand over the next couple of years.
It's become very competitive in the last several years.
97, so is that within normal limits? Yes, it is, very good.
It's difficult to get into Northeast. We've had almost 700 applications, and we only have 330 spots available. So it becomes kind of a game of who has the best grades, who has the best attendance, and who has the best discipline record. So the caliber student that we end up with is a very good student. We have a lot of kids in the National Honor Society, the National Technical Honor Society, and many of them become business owners, engineers, nurses, and professionals.
Well, we also need a breakfast desk too.
Go ahead.
You know, there's such a huge array of kids that come here. It's very diverse, it's very culturally mixed. There are kids from all walks of life, all cities and towns, kids who are academically geared. South membrane, I see God, very good, very good. Kids who are more vocationally geared.
Very good. Well, this is a great environment. I've been working here for 11 years, and not one day has gone by where I, thought about not coming to work. But that's a little much. That's perfect right now. There's a great group of people here. The kids are phenomenal, and everyone gets along. We develop a family-type atmosphere. We really care about each other. We become accountable, and it works out to our favor.
What I tell people about our school, it's like no other school. There's a sense of community here. The teachers are so involved with the kids. Great, excellent. The kids learn so much.
Okay, conversely, what about AU carryout organism?
It's just an unbelievable place.
And I like the fact that no student feels stuck. They always feel as if there's something that they're successful at, whether it be in an academic class or in their career technical area. I think they leave here every day really having learned something and feeling a part of something.
If you're a sports enthusiast, Northeast is for you. There's baseball, basketball, cheerleading, cross country, football, golf, hockey, lacrosse, soccer, softball, swimming, track and field, and volleyball. And for student activities, check out Student Government, Student Council, Skills USA, National Honor Society, National Vocational Technical Honor Society, Tech Prep, Students Against Destructive Decision, the Gay Straight Alliance, Kickoff Mentoring, and Peer Mediation.
Naturally, one of the old personas was that when you went to a vocational school, you couldn't go to college. And that is not true anymore.
Hi, I'm going to Webber Institute of Technology for Architecture. I'm going to UMass Boston. I'm going to Lesley University.
I'm going to Suffolk University.
I'm going to Southern New Hampshire University for special education.
I'm going to Key State, I'm taking architecture.
I'm going to National Pharmacy for dental hygiene.
I'm going to UMass Boston. I'm undecided.
I'm going to Pittsburgh State University for criminal justice.
I'm going to Southern New Hampshire to study sports management.
I'm going to Salem State for nursing.
I'm going to Christian Academy. I'm going to Vermont Knowledge University for environmental science.
I'm going to Birmingham State University for early childhood education.
So if you're seriously considering Northeast, here's 4 words of advice. Do well in school.
I've yet to have a student come up to me and say, I wish I never went to Northeast. On the other hand, I bump into students constantly within the community that say, man, I wish I tried Northeast.
This is not your traditional school.
Excellent. You guys are fabulous.
If you're looking for hands-on training, rigorous academics, and a culturally diverse environment, Northeast is the right fit for you.
Great. Very nice.
Very interesting.
This will get the TV, and this will get the audience. Yeah, no, we can use that too.
Okay. Well, that's, like I said, that's our recruitment video that we've been using since the middle of last year. And I felt it was important for you folks to be able to see what we show your 8th graders, because they're still your students. Even though they're at our school, they're still North Reading students, and we're proud to have them. And we want to give you a little taste of what they get with the exploratory program, what's available to them. And for the right kid, it's the right fit. And not everyone, belongs at a vocational school, but the kids that really want to strive to get into the trades or become an engineer or an architect or a nurse, it's a fantastic place for them. And we have very good luck with your students. They're great kids, and we hope we service them well. We try hard. And we're honored to be here tonight and field any questions if anyone has any.
Am I too old to get in?
No, actually, we have an adult education program.
What about beyond adult?
Yeah, the distant adult. Yeah, we can service everyone. Yes.
Great video.
Oh, yeah, the video came out very well. We were very happy with it.
It is.
And you know, that's part of what we do while we're so excited to visit other schools and other school committees. I learned something tonight, just as simple as you had your student representative start your meeting. That was a fantastic idea. And they did the sports. And I'm changing our format to what you folks do as of the next meeting. It's a nice way to do it. And, you know, that's what we're here for. We're all on the same team. That's right. Last year, you folks won our lottery for labor. We, every year, we give out $10,000 in labor to a community. And I don't know how it happened. Miss Diamond pulled out the slip, and it was North Reading. And we ended up painting a couple of vehicles for your DPW and for your fire department. And I think we did a police vehicle also.
Well, this year, if we win, let's do it for the schools, all right?
Right. So that's something. And speaking about schools, John brought us around last year and showed us this new building, and it's absolutely breathtaking. You folks should be very proud, because it's quite an undertaking to do that, and it takes a whole team to do that. And I know you folks must have worked tirelessly on it for many, many, many months, and came out beautiful. We're very envious, but
You guys were investigating.
we are. We actually are doing a pre-feasibility study as of now. When I met with several of our town managers, they said that they would like to have 2 or 3 concepts, different levels to look at. And because we're dealing with 12 communities, we have to kind of satisfy a lot of different needs. So that's what we're doing now. We're coming up with just a renovation concept, then a renovation and expansion, and also a completely new building.
Would you be able to do the new building on the current site?
Yes, and that's the
There's a lot of
important
property
part.
there, right?
Yes, we have a whole section of property that we could build a whole new site on. Because the challenging part, and I know anyone that's been in education long enough, when you're doing a renovation, it's so difficult because you're trying to move children around. And in a vocational school, you can't just pick up an auto body shop or a welding shop.
Move it next door.
And move it to the middle school. It just doesn't work. And the other thing is, if you have a student that comes in, he's going to be on a construction site his freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year.
We're
So that's difficult when you're in the building that they're renovating. So
Now, have you had any contact with the MSBA to see what kind of support they would?
3 years ago, I contacted them, and they came in and they did kind of just a general look around, and they said that we're prime candidate. They're looking at the time, 71%.
I was going to say, you should get a high reimbursement rate.
It was very high
Yeah.
because of our demographic and our gateway communities that we service. Yeah, so we're very excited about it, but it's a long haul. Would you like to speak, Ms. Diamond?
I'd just briefly like to thank you all for inviting us here every year. Mr. Superintendent spoke, they were delighted when we had that opportunity. Obviously, we have a lot to be proud of, and being able to come up here, and I'm so delighted that Mr. Nickley and Mr. DeBerry very willingly agreed to come with me tonight. So we'd be glad to do it anytime. And we are going to be looking for the support of all of the communities moving forward with that new school, and I'm hoping that we can get that with the North Reading School Committee. And also, I'd like to mention that the other project that we're taking on here in North Reading this year is Ipswich River Park, and in conjunction with Moynihan Lumber, who is supplying the materials, and our students, we're going to be replacing all of the picnic benches in Ipswich River Park.
Good.
So, that's something else. We really believe in community involvement and work very hard towards that. So if anybody has any questions that any one of us could answer, we'd be glad to.
Just out of curiosity, what is the amount of students that you have enrolled at your school?
Mr. DeBerry?
1,250. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big high school.
Yeah, and we were built for 900.
Yeah.
So we have 1,250, and it's,
So it's not only renovations, it's crowded.
oh, yeah, yeah. It's very crowded.
Judy, how many students from North Reading there?
They were just asking me that.
37.
37.
37?
37. Which,
37. From North Reading? 37.
37.
37, that is more than we've had the pleasure of having from
Really?
North Reading. I'm delighted to see that number.
That's interesting.
Because we all know that, you know,
it'd be hard to resist after seeing
Right.
the promotion.
Absolutely.
You know, that was really well done.
So wow, that's even a surprise to me. I'm glad you
That's
did
well
that.
done.
And thank you for that, everybody, for your support and sending out your kids there.
Anything else?
You guys?
No.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
coming.
Thanks.
Thanks,
That's
John.
great. Thank you, Jim.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I'm surprised they don't have more kids. That was
Well,
impressive.
37's a lot. I don't think we ever had that before.
34 years ago.
But people are starting to understand.
On the right.
Not college isn't for every
No,
single
it's
kid.
not.
It's not.
I'm thinking I should have said Kendra.
Yeah. I have one, but I definitely should.
And you know what? Everyone's going to be a doctor, teacher, lawyer. No one's going to be around to do the trade.
That was well done.
That was
Yeah, that was
extremely
very
well
well
done.
done. Very
That's
good.
great. Okay. Next, we have a presentation from the Community Impact Team. Would you like to come forward?
So, Madam Chairman, I think Amy Luckowitz is going to make the presentation. We have a special presentation tonight. Amy, do you want to come down? How about right over here with the microphone?
Need a mic, yeah.
Right here.
So Janine, maybe if you don't mind, while Amy's on her way down. So the North Reading Community Impact Team's Youth Substance Use Prevention Coalition recognizes the importance of adults in the community who serve either professionally or within their neighborhoods as trusted people that our youth can turn to for advice. Bridget, I'm sorry, there's a chair right over here, dear, if you'd like. The 2015 Trusted Adult Award was opened up to the community of North Reading with nominations welcome from any North Reading youth. Students were encouraged to explain the positive characteristics of the adult that they nominated, and the recipient this year was selected by the Youth Substance Use Prevention Coalition. And I'm very pleased and honored to acknowledge one of our educators, a North Reading teacher, Ms. Carla Lister, who has been named the recipient of the 2015 Trusted Adult Award. Well deserved.
When I saw that name, I said, what a coincidence. We have a Carla Lister that works here at North Reading.
So, Amy, did you want to make a little introduction?
Very
Carla?
briefly, and then I would like to turn it over to one of the students. First of all, the Youth Substance Use Prevention Action Coalition, if you come up with a better name or a shorter name, please send it our way. We go by many names. But if, anybody in education knows the value of protective factors, and this was something that when we were meeting in our committee and we kind of talked around about what protects our students from making risky decisions, and oftentimes, and most importantly, was having a strong adult in their life that they could turn to when they are scared, or when they're feeling confused, or when they're concerned or worried, or anything like that. So that's how the award came about. Mr. Bernard did a great introduction, and so I actually want to turn it over to one of the 8th grade students from North Reading Middle School. This is Bridget Grew, and she wrote a very nice nomination and then ended up collecting signatures. So she's going to just talk about that. So I've known Mrs. Lister since 1st grade, and as she said, I'm now in 8th grade, so obviously I've known her for a while and had the pleasure of being in her class. She's one of those teachers that you walk into the classroom and she's already smiling, and she just has such a great energy and wears lots of hats, the chorus director, the general music teacher, the director of many of our plays. So clearly very, very busy, but still every day you walk into class and she's smiling and the most enthusiastic person in the room. So I was going to read a paragraph from my letter I wrote about Mrs. Lister. I first had Mrs. Lister at the Batchelder School in 1st grade. I am now in 8th grade and love music even more than I did then, which I did not think was possible. In 1st grade, I was a very shy student who always wanted to be in the back of the room, did not want any attention, and could not even fathom talking to some of my peers. Well, I still do not like much attention. I'm glad that everyone else went before us, so they all left, so it's not as many people.
You're doing pretty good.
I have finally come out of my shell. Mrs. Lister has encouraged me to be outgoing, to be brave, and to take risks. She is one of the people I trust most in the world. Without her, I never would have joined drama, and I doubt I would still be in chorus. Mrs. Lister has been one of the only people who realized I was more than a shy little girl who sat in the back of the room afraid to talk. She saw that I could be something more than that. Without Mrs. Lister, I would not be in drama, something that I love more than words can describe. Without Mrs. Lister, I would not be in chorus, a class that brings endless joy to me and encourages me to get over my stage fright. Without Mrs. Lister, I would not be the person I am today.
Wow.
I think you're going to get an A this year. I think you're going to get an A.
If we could bring Mrs. Lister down, I have a little award from on behalf of the community impact team. And as she comes down, I'll also add one of her attributes is she's very patient, because we were supposed to present this at National Night Out in August and it got rained out.
Oh, gee.
So this was actually a better, actually. I'm really happy because I was speaking to Mr. Bernard and we were wondering if it would be appropriate to present it to her in front of you all. So I'm very happy to do that. But actually, I'm going to have Bridget give it to you. It just says it's a Star Award, and now I just got fingerprints all over it. Sorry. And it says 2015 Trusted Adult Award. I'm going to have you give this to her, and we'll pose for pictures. But I also want to give you a copy of Bridget's nomination of you and the 37 signatures that she collected to make sure that it was not just her opinion. She wanted me to know that it was the opinion of her, I think, your entire chorus.
I was running around in chorus class hoping you wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
I was just signing things.
What was I doing? So we'll let you get. I think we have some pictures I want to get, but I'll give this to you after. I'll get out of the way. Oh, sorry.
You want to get in?
No.
He was a good teacher. He's cute, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Now, this could have gone to anybody in the community?
Anybody in the community.
And it went to one of our faculty
Yeah,
members.
that's really special. And in fact, next year I would love to give out 2 or 3. We would love to grow this program. I think once we put this in the paper, people are going to be like, oh, I really should have not. You know, I can think of some people. But I think I'm the daughter of an educator. And my dad taught for 40 years at Lynn Tech, actually. And he used to say, I'm going to just say this for you, is that his gold watch is when the student comes up to him and says thank you. And so I hope you consider this to be your early gold watch, because it really is touching when I see somebody come up to my dad and thank him for his 40 years of service. So I'm so glad an educator got it. Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Bridget.
She's definitely getting an A.
Oh, yeah. It's things like that that make this job nice, you know?
Yeah, there's nobody yelling at us.
Yeah.
It's nice to give out awards.
Mr. Daly, would you like to come present on the 2015 MCAS results?
Do you have a PowerPoint?
Yep.
Good.
All right, folks. A little bit different presentation this year. As we know, some of the scores were different because our testing was a little bit different this year. We tested MCAS in English Language Arts and Literacy in grade 10, in mathematics in grade 10, in science grades 5 and 8, and in biology in grade 9. We also did the MCAS ALT assessment and the access assessment for our English language learner students. The scaled scores and the growth measures are the same as they've been in the past. And so I'd just like to frame a little bit with, what do we do in terms of data analysis in our district? So we have our curriculum leaders, our principals. We also have a new position this year at each school called the data leader. And those data leaders are helping our administrators and our teachers use data to inform instruction. And this is a new position that we're very excited about. So the questions that those folks ask are, what data do we have and what data do we need? And they use a tool from the Department of Education called Edwin Analytics, which helps us to look at our data in new and different ways. And this data in Edwin Analytics will have both MCAS and PARCC data. This chart just shows a little bit of some of the different things that we look at the district level and then also at the school and grade level. And I think there's a tendency sometimes to, for teachers to jump right in and look at their class or look at their students. So we really try to look at both the macro lens and the micro lens because there's interesting information at different levels. So we look at all of these different things when we look at data in our district. So just a reminder of some of the variables from last year, 2014-15, the 2011 standards in ELA and mathematics were both fully assessed and reported. But we did take the PARCC assessment in grades 3 through 8, and we also took the PARCC assessment for grade 9 algebra. So unlike many other years, the data that I'm about to show you is only in the areas where MCAS was taken. Our PARCC results will be available in a few weeks, and I have a slide on that towards the end. So in language arts, I'll start with high school overall. As you can see, our 4-year trend is definitely on the up. This is a great score for us. 70% of our students scored advanced. Another 29% of our students scored proficient on the English language arts grade 10. And I did include on these slides also, you can look just over the last 4 years, you can see how we fare against the state average as well. And as you can see, there is a trend upward with English language arts, but we definitely are well above that average. For mathematics, again, it's a 4-year high for the number of students scoring advanced. 71%. We have 18% of students that scored proficient. Similar trend, you can see that the scores are much higher than the state averages, which we've come to expect in our district. In science this year, we still have a high number of students, both advanced and proficient, but you can see that for the first time in a few years, our advanced scores have dipped a little bit there below our proficient scores. So still very good scores, but our advanced numbers are a little bit lower this year than they have been in the last few years. And I just took a snapshot there of 2015. You can see how we relate to the state average. So as I've mentioned in the past, our DART districts, these are our comparison schools. The districts here, we're just looking at high school at the moment, comparing for English language arts, mathematics, and science. These are districts with similar demographics and makeup to our own high school. The blue highlighted area there is the top school in our comparison area, and then obviously the orange highlight is North Reading. And just to take a snapshot of what this looks like, again, these are very good scores, and when we're looking at here, we're really, I like to think of this as, not becoming complacent with good scores. How can we still rise to meet the challenge? So when we're comparing ourselves to some of the top districts that are comparable, this is where we rank. So we are in English language arts, we are number 2 out of 11 comparison districts. The top score would be Duxbury High. Mathematics, even though it was a very good score, we're still, there's definitely room to grow within our own comparison districts. We're 11 out of 11 in that area. Science, so again, even though those scores, we saw the advanced numbers were a little bit low, but we're still 3rd of 11 out of all comparison schools. So that indicates that a lot of folks went through a similar challenge this year. Linfield High was the highest there. And our growth areas for ELA and math were 9th of 11 and 8th of 11 in that area. So some very good news there, and also some areas to investigate and some room for improvement in our comparisons. For 8th grade, you can see that we are, scores are very similar to as they've been in the past. This year, I'd say, continuing with our 49% proficient students, 1% in the advanced range. But this is very typical to what you're seeing across the state. You do see a low number of advanced and 8th grade science. And our proficient numbers and needs improvement, very similar to what you see across the state for science. When you look at our DART districts for science, we are 8th of 11 in our comparison areas, compared Wayland Middle School being the top in that area. So you can see no one in the science scores there is getting in those high 80s and 90s, but you can see that there is some room for growth there in our science scores. We're going to see a lot of change in science. We have new standards that are going to be talked about very soon. There's a lot of changes. Our 6th grade teachers and students are going through a brand new curriculum this year. They've put a lot of work in over the summer to develop that. So we're going to be seeing North Reading really is ahead of the game in getting those standards aligned. We won't see necessarily a change in the assessments for several years, But at this time, we're doing everything. They've also told us that there's no harm in getting started in that process. So nothing that we're doing with our curriculum and the changes to the curriculum will be affecting the test scores, but we are putting ourselves in a good place and following the guidelines and recommendations from the state. Fifth grade science, this is all 3 schools across the district. You can see some advances there in our advanced scores, 37%, and our proficient, 46%. And just to compare how that looks with the state averages. Very nice number there for our advanced students. And again, our proficient numbers sometimes are lower because we have more in the advanced. So when you look at those advanced proficient combined, it's telling a good story. So again, we have high performance at grade 10. Writing continues to be an area of focus, not only in literacy, but also in our writing for mathematics and also our writing in science areas. 2015 will provide us with much more data than ever before. We're going to be taking information not only from MCAS, but also from PARC and other assessments as well. And again, we have our new Common Core standards, and as I mentioned before, there will be new standards that will likely be adopted this fall for science. Those are still being proposed, but those are new that are coming out. So again, this spring, we will have, we know right now that English language arts and literacy in grade 10, mathematics in grade 10, science grades 5 and 8, biology in grade 9, the MCAS alternative assessment and the access for ELLs, all those tests will be given again this spring. We know that for certain. What is still to be determined on the 17th, I believe, of November, is what test we will be taking for English language arts and literacy in grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. In mathematics, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Will there be any testing at the high school level similar to what we did for Algebra 1 in 9th grade? Whether this will be a paper test, whether this will be a computer test. All of these questions are still to be determined. I strongly feel that they will go with something very simple, just based on the pure realization that it's almost, they'll be making this decision and it'll be close to December in order for districts that are not taking tests on the computers or have never looked at that before. I can't imagine any way they would say this is what we're going to go with. As you're familiar, the commissioner has suggested 3 doors. You know, before we may have thought of this as an MCAS or a PARC decision, but as we've discussed many times at this committee, we had a feeling that there might be a 3rd door there, which is we called it MCAS Plus. They've called it MCAS 2.0, but it's the idea of a next generation assessment that takes a lot of what went into building an assessment like a PARC assessment, but allows us to customize and use that engine, but be able to put our MCAS questions in it and use it how we need it. So my prediction for the spring is that we'll have a test that looks similar to something we've seen in years past that will be simple to administer. And I would imagine that we probably will not be doing anything at the high school this year. I was participated in a webinar today, and they spoke to that as being really the high school tests, such as Algebra 1, gave very good information, but it didn't seem to me to indicate that they were going to come out with those kind of end of course assessments for this year. But we'll have to see a lot more information to come. A lot of people are focused on what we're going with MCAS or PARC, but there's many, many questions that come underneath that category as well. This is the release schedule. Some of these dates are still in flux and subject to change, but for the most part, the 2nd week of November, they will be providing grades 3 to 8 and grade 9 summary reports for the PARC and the accountability data. This is what this is about. In early to mid-November, there'll be more information for grade 9, our Algebra 1 assessment, so that would be parent and student information. In early to mid-December, they'll be providing the parent and student information for grades 3 to 8. And then in early December, they will be providing accountability reports to us for grades K to 12. If you remember, we are part of our taking the PARC assessment, we were held harmless as far as accountability. So if for some reason our schools or districts scored worse than we had scored previous year in MCAS, we would be held harmless. Any questions?
Question about the science.
Mhm.
What sort of data analysis have we done with our science teachers, perhaps with our fifth grade elementary science teachers, to kind of see what's happening between fifth and eighth grade? Are we missing certain standards? Is the curriculum lacking? Like, why do we continue to perform so low at the eighth grade level?
Sure. We have, I think, two things to keep in mind. One is that if you look across the state, those trends are very similar to what you would see. And I can go back to that slide. The eighth grade test in a lot of our areas, are very similar. You don't see a lot of high achievement on that eighth grade science test. You see a good amount in the proficient and needs improvement range. I think that something that we have identified is that there's definitely a need for increasing some of that science and technology and engineering. And I know that our teachers do a good job here of trying to review and prepare for the test. However, I think there's a definite need for us to be increasing our science and tech engineering. You know, I've spoken before, and I speak with the principal quite often about, you know, right now there's an elective for computer science and for technology, but not every student is taking that. So you do have your eighth grade teachers scrambling a little bit to teach some of those engineering skills. So what's nice about the new standards and the new approach that we're taking is really trying to have an engineering process and a science process embedded in what you're doing every day in your science classes. I think we will see some improvements there just because of that process. But I think there is room for us to do an extended analysis with that as well. As we're looking at new curriculum, this is the perfect time to do that, to just talk about, you know, in most of our other examples that I put up here tonight, we are far above the state average. But you do see in our middle school science that we are closer to the state average.
With the new standards, will we need to be looking at new curriculum or supportive materials for teachers?
Absolutely, yeah. There's new curriculum already in place in grade 6, and so the idea is that we're going to phase that in over 3 years to make those changes. So it's happened already for grade 6, being revised for grade 7 over the summer, and then the same for next year. So it's sort of a 3-year implementation. Okay. There are some suggestions for new materials. The leaders have been looking at different materials. I think there's still a lot of work to be done. Again, the standards haven't officially even been adopted yet, so we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves with adopting new materials. But we have a lot of different approaches. But we are kind of focusing as a district on math, but science is up next.
Okay. Great.
It looks to me from the data that since it's statewide,
Mm-hmm.
that the curriculum that we're told to teach to and the testing aren't kind of like together. It just looks like they're not testing the curriculum, they're testing some other thing.
Sure. For science in particular, are we talking about?
It isn't a patch.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is the next area to really look at. You know, we've been told several times that there's not going to be a shift in the test, at least not for several years. It will still stay. It will stay at a 5th, 8th, and a high school subject area. But one of the major shifts with the new standards is that there are grade level standards, and so I think there is still a bit of that. You know, some of our teachers were hoping that maybe there would be less of this. 5th and 8th grade teachers having to go back and get ready for this test. But at this time, they're still going to stay at those grade level spans. But I agree. I think that it's ripe for, with new standards, the next process is looking at those assessments and do they line up and do they measure? Because our teachers are working very hard teaching those standards with fidelity, and they've done a great job. It's really a question of what the test is measuring, I believe.
I haven't memorized all of the data.
Mm-hmm.
It looks to me like by the time we get to grade 10, the test and what we've taught all comes together again.
It does.
You can
So
say that.
the test that's being given at the lower grade is bogus or not.
Well, it's just interesting because 5th grade results are pretty good, and then, from 5th to 8th, there's a drop. So something is not right.
Yeah, that's the slide right there.
The other issue, Patrick, and I don't know if I read it out of context or not, but when you showed the slide comparing the DOT communities, we were 2nd out of 11 in ELA, 3rd out of 11 in science, and 11 out of 11 in math, and it was striking the difference, I thought, in the scores from the other towns. Well, why is that? I mean, That seems to be a fairly constant thing.
I'm sorry, so the difference is in math?
Well, I was looking at I thought that you showed a chart up there where we were 11th out of 11
Yes.
in comparison with the other DAC communities.
Mhm.
Is this it?
Yeah, and again, it's very, I mean, if you look, we're 89%, which is, everybody else in this group is in the
I know,
in
but
the
this
early
is
90s.
apples to apples. That's
Yep,
my point.
yep.
Over here, we're 99%. Over here, we're 91%. And here, we're 89%. And we're comparing ourselves. I know it's only, a difference of anywhere between, 2 and 6% or 7%. It just seemed fairly striking, though, that we dropped down
Sure.
to 11th on that.
And what's interesting is if you go back, Patrick, can you go back to the earlier
Yep.
slide that has the 3-year trend? I mean, look at the spike in that number, and the math one,
Yeah.
and that's a huge amount of growth in the advanced category, yet it's still in comparison, placed us low.
Well, that could mean that we were low before we.
Yeah, I
had
think
the
it does
spike in
mean that.
growth as well. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
So I don't know, it just seems to me to jump off the page.
Yeah, it does. It's definitely an area of us,
And it's
a
not
focus.
comparing it to the state, it's comparing it to the other communities.
Your
that
communities,
We,
yeah.
Any other questions?
thank you.
So we will return, I'll work through the superintendent. When the park data is released, we can look at the other grade levels as well.
If you don't mind, Patrick, I'd
Please.
just mention that Patrick and I participated in a webinar today that the Department of Education gave on the park test and the calendar for the results. And we think that we probably would be looking at maybe an early December timeframe to come back to you with a presentation on that.
And perhaps
give or
with
take.
that, some sort of explanation as to what the final decision is and, what our plan is going forward.
Yeah, the Department of Education is expected to vote on that prior to when our presentation to you would be, so
Right.
we should know that.
So have some information to.
Sure. And we have no idea what they're going to propose. Again, I'm hoping that
Right.
there is no choice for us. They just tell us what we're doing. I have no idea if they're going to say, you need to choose computer or paper, you need to choose 9th grade, 8th grade algebra. I don't know what they're going to say in those sub-questions. I don't know if, have you heard anything specific to that? No, sure. The focus has been on MCAS Park, but there's so many other sub-questions that we have. So I can only imagine they're going to keep it as simple as possible for this year. And that's what I hope. So
Fingers
we will
crossed.
absolutely share all that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Superintendent Bernard, would you like to go over the academic calendar for next year?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's that time of year. In your packet is a proposed draft for the academic calendar for 2016-17. I don't think that there's anything typically out of the ordinary here, with maybe one exception. You might remember a couple or 3 years ago, there had been a professional development day prior to the opening day of school, the opening day of for faculty, which this year would be September the 6th. We are seeking a professional development day to go back to that calendar that we had a couple of years ago by having a full-day professional development day on September 1st. And I do not anticipate that is a request that we would be making annually, but we think that, and when I say we, the Administrative Council and I, think that because of the adoption, what we're anticipating to be the adoption of a new math curriculum, that to have a professional development day a little bit earlier than we might normally have for staff to obtain the materials and to have those materials to plan is a good thing. So that's the primary driving force behind the request for the September 1st professional development day. And again, I would not anticipate that would be something that we might be coming back to you with unless the committee saw differently. But for next year, that is the proposal I would like to make to you. Other than that, I think it's pretty much in line with where we are this year. There's a little bit of a funny thing going on in November of 2016. As I think you all know, tomorrow we have a full-day professional development day, and the reason for that is that we are part of a larger network, the what's called NPEN, Northeast Professional Educators Network, which is a collaborative group of districts, probably about 10 or 12 in the area, that are sponsoring professional development for some of those subject areas that we don't typically have a lot of professional development opportunities available to them, library media, physical education, art, music, and such. And the reason it's being held on tomorrow is because it's election day, and there are some good number of districts that don't have school that day. And so the remaining communities that did have school scheduled with students had selected that as a professional development day so that we could send teachers to these professional development offerings. And I think tomorrow we're sending somewhere around 70 educators, Patrick, correct? And so next year, the one little thing that quite honestly I'm not thrilled with, but in order for us to take advantage of these professional development offerings, which by the way it's a $500 cost for 70 people to go, so it's very, very feasible. I don't like the fact that that happens to be next year, in the same week as the Veterans Day holiday. So it does create a little bit of a disjointed week, that week of November the 7th, but again, that would be a kind of a one-year thing, so to speak. But other than that, I think the calendar is pretty straightforward.
Does making that September 1st, do we remove another professional day for teachers somewhere else in the calendar?
We would have the same number. It would
Okay.
just be in a different spot, right?
You looking for a vote to approve on this?
I think so, Mr. Venezia, yeah, if I could. And just to, Mrs. Kopke, to your question, I think the change is that the February 3rd, what would be the February 3rd, which is a full day this year, goes to a half day next year.
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve the 2016-2017 school calendar as proposed by the superintendent.
Thank you. Second? Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Conley?
It's you, Mr. Connolly, yes. Need to step up. Excuse me.
Jeez, I got a lot of paper tonight.
And make two.
Okay. Good evening. So I am going to give a brief presentation on our enrollment projections that essentially highlights a lot of the information that was in the packet where there was a detailed enrollment report that was provided. So it is typical this time of year. We get our official October 1 enrollment counts, which came out last month, and then we've spent the last few weeks sort of analyzing the October 1 enrollment counts, comparing the enrollment projections to what our projections were a year ago, and then it's pertinent that we update our 3-, 5-, and 10-year enrollment projections as we look forward and begin. Really, to me, this is always really the kickoff to the FY17 budget planning process. As we all know, enrollment always plays a major driver in all of our budget conversations that we have each fiscal year. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the methodology that we use when we predict enrollments. And essentially, we use what is referred to as the cohort survival method for predicting school enrollments. And this is a method that essentially assumes what has happened in the past will continue to happen in the future. That is, given the number of births to the net effect of all other influences on enrollment will remain proportionately the same. We can develop a technique that essentially calculates the ratio of number of children in one year, in one grade in 1 year, compared to the number of children who move on or survive and enroll in the grade the following year. Percentages are then calculated from this historical enrollment data to determine a reliable percentage of increases or decreases in enrollment between any two grades. So we can look at the historical trends, look at the changes and fluctuations between students moving on each year, and we can develop percentages that tend to be pretty reliable over 3, 5, and 10 years. The 10-year trend in the case of North Reading is considered most reliable given that in and out migration of North Reading students over the last really decade has remained relatively stagnant and stable. Of course, proposed or planned residential developments and or turnover of homes can always impact the cohort numbers, and we've tried to take any known information of residential developments and so forth into consideration when we predict student enrollments. Essentially, there are two main factors that the report speaks to that are at work when looking at enrollments. And number one is in North Reading, there is a continuing decline in the number of births to North Reading residents over the last decade, and to a greater degree, there has also been evidence of a resumption of in-migration in North Reading, certainly over the last 5 years, that have increased, which previously had slowed due to the economy and the real estate slowdown. So we certainly look at a variety of factors. Essentially, birth rates are a huge part of the data that we do look at. And for example, in the decade between 2000 and 2009, North Reading averaged 160 births per year. And more recently, over the last 6 to 7 years, we've only averaged between about 119 and 150 annual births. So that we're averaging about 17 fewer births annually, which these trends over time will certainly have an impact on our enrollment projections as we look 3, 5, and 10 years to the future. So that's a little bit of background on the various data and methodology we use when we look at enrollments. I did want to start looking at this chart, which I think we're all familiar with in a sense. Really over the last 60 some odd years, this provides data on total enrollments in North Reading. And as you can see, the data is certainly almost sort of a two bell-shaped curves, where North Reading peaked enrollment back in the mid to early 70s, where we peaked at about the highest enrollment was 3,461. Then in the 1980s, enrollment decreased to a low of about 1,926 students. It then began to rise steadily in the 1990s, peaking at about 2,319 students in the 90s, and then it sort of capped in fiscal year 2008, where we reached 2,812 students. And then since fiscal year 2008, the district has been on a steady decline. We saw a slight increase in fiscal year 2014, but for the most part, enrollment is showing signs of sort of stabilizing over the past few years. So this is just a little quick history of some interesting information about North Reading's enrollment cycle. When we look at the last 10 years, which was the focus of the report, certainly the last 10 years, we looked at the trends and tried to get a look at certainly the survival data from students to one grade to the next. These were the 10 years we focused on. And certainly, as I mentioned earlier, 2008 was the peak year. And then since then, it's been on a steady decline. But for the most part, these last few years, we've seen enrollment somewhat stabilizing. As I mentioned earlier, the two biggest factors is that birth rate in North Reading, which has been on a steady decline, and certainly evidence of the real estate market increasing, and certainly there's been new building permits and new homes being sold. That pace has quickened over the last 3 or 5 years, and we've certainly seen evidence of an in-migration of families with school-age children coming back to North Reading, and all this information will certainly have an impact on future enrollments. Certainly, when we look at the next chart, which is our district-wide enrollment over the next 10 years, which was the focus of the projections and the report that was provided, I will just certainly preference this information by saying enrollments projections are always most reliable in years 1 through 5 of the report, which would be fiscal 17 through about fiscal year 2021. Beyond 5 years, really the data becomes less reliable in years 6 through 10. That's why it's always very important that this is an annual process, that we look at October 1 enrollment counts and we update the data and look at new trends and new information each and every year. As I've mentioned earlier, there is certainly evidence that the economy has picked up and the real estate situation has improved in the region. During 2008 to 2013, many communities in the region sold only about 60 to 80% has many homes as it did between 2003 and 2007. In the case of North Reading, on average, 161 single-family homes were sold between 2003 and 2007. However, the pace has quickened in recent years with 181 homes sold in 2013, 171 homes sold in 2014, and the pace in 2015 seems to be on the same trend with about 170 homes sold at this point of the year. So if this trend continues, and as we're seeing new homes being built and in-migration returning to North Reading, I think it's very highly likely that we can come to the conclusion that the forecasted declines in the later years of the projections from 2022 through 2025 and 2026 will kind of moderate, and we may not see as large of a decline in projections that we may be predicting beyond 4 or 5 years in this report. But certainly these will all be trends that we'll be certainly needing to pay close attention to as we move through each year. This next chart shows projected enrollment in in-grade combinations. So there's a few certainly grade combinations that we pay close attention to. Certainly the K through 5, 6 through 8 at the middle school, 9 through 12 at the high school, all areas of in-grade combinations we look at closely. Over the next 3 years, K through 5 enrollments are forecasted to remain relatively stable. Grades 6 through 8 in combination is expected to decrease by 73 students over the next three years. We're at 609 currently. This first column row, is the actuals. This is October 1 actual data, and then we've projected about 10 years into the future. So where we're seeing the largest decline in the near future of the next 3 years is at the grades 6 through 8 at the middle school level. Grades 9 through 12, and that's where we've seen the largest increase in enrollment in the last couple of years. We are currently at 801 students. That's the largest we've seen in the last several years, and we're expected that 9 through 12 enrollment will remain above 800, relatively high for the next couple of years before they start seeing a decline beyond fiscal year 2018. So certainly these are important trends that we certainly need to pay close attention to. They certainly drive budget conversations when we start the budget conversations in the near future. But it's certainly very, very interesting, certainly information. And I will just again preference this information by saying in the later years, with the real estate economy improving and the in-migration numbers going up, beyond 3 years or so, I don't think we'll experience the drastic decline that some of these projections are indicating. I think we'll see some of these numbers moderate, but we'll certainly be paying close attention to it. So the next few charts just look at each level, starting with the elementary schools in a little more detail. And as we can see, the dark blue represents actuals, and the light blue represents the projections moving forward. So certainly K through 5 enrollments are going to, as you can see by the slide, are going to remain relatively stable district-wide amongst all 3 elementary schools. So a slight decline next year, but overall over the next 5 years, we're looking at very stable enrollment at the elementary level. At the middle school level, as I just spoke to, this is where we're seeing the potential of the largest decline. 2014 saw a very high enrollment of about 682 students. As the smaller elementary class sizes kind of move on to the middle school level, we're starting to see the middle school enrollment go down, and that trend is expected to continue over the next several years. We're at 609 currently, and you can see between now and fiscal year 2019, it's about a decline of about 73 students projected, and then it's supposed to stabilize somewhat beyond fiscal year 2019. So these are certainly be trends that we'll be paying close attention to as we certainly move forward. I will say the survival or the cohort survival ratio has lessened at the middle school. We're almost looking at it from grades 5 through grade 6. We're looking at about 96, a little over 96% of the students are moving on to the middle school level, and that trend's been pretty consistent, between 96 and 97%. So moving on to the high school. Again, we can certainly see this is where where the challenge certainly has been at the high school level, where we've seen the increase certainly over the last 3 or 4 fiscal years that we've had to address. We've gotten up above 800, and we're at above 800 for the first time in fiscal year 2016. And we will stay relatively high above 800 for at least the next 2 fiscal years before we see a decline as the lower class sizes move into the high school. Just like the middle school, the high school has experienced a higher level of students moving from 8th grade to 9th grade have stayed and continued on in North Reading to the North Reading High School. At one time experienced as much as 12 to 14% loss of students between 8th and 9th grade, and we're not experiencing that type of a decline any longer. We're more at about 92 to 93%, loss of around 7%, which is what these projections assume. So in summary, a few closing summary comments. Essentially, district-wide enrollment is expected to decline over the next decade. As I've mentioned, however, it is certainly likely that these patterns will not last as long as the 10 years. As the economy and real estate market improves, in-migration will certainly return to North Reading. We've already seen evidence of that with the increase in homes sold and new homes being built. So I think it's certainly, a lot of good information can be gathered from looking at the numbers, and we'll certainly be paying close attention to it and getting into the numbers even in greater detail as we approach the budget conversations later this fall and into the winter. So with that being said, I'll open it up to any questions from the committee through the chairman.
I thought it was very thorough. Very well done.
Okay, great. I will just note, I did,
Elbow room.
Would.
I handed out a revised page 7 of the report. Okay, you got, great, thank you.
Michael.
Yep.
Excuse me. All right, we have minutes from our September 28th executive and open session. If I could get a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the executive session minutes from September 28th, 2015.
Thank you.
Second.
Any corrections or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. And also for the open session, if I could get a motion?
Motion to approve open session meeting September 28th, 2015.
Cliff second.
Oh, very good. We beat you. Any corrections or any comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Excuse me. We have no budget update or staffing, so we can go right into the fun stuff, bids and donations. We have, what did I just do with it? I don't have.
You're just the one, the little school PTO?
Yes. Oh, thank you. For some reason, I don't
Move
have
to
one.
accept with gratitude the donation from Little School PTO in the amount of $460 to support the cost of the grade 1 field trip to Legoland in April and the Children's Museum in June.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Once again,
wonderful.
thank you very much to the PTO. They're very
It's-
supportive.
It's amazing, the amount that they
It is.
generate in their generosity. Okay. Mr. Venencia, would you like to do the athletic subcommittee?
I got a lot of papers in front of me. I'm very
I saw
confused.
that.
We had a meeting on October 19th. A lot of issues, a lot of discussions. I'll try to get through it very quickly. One of them was, again, discussing the bathrooms that are going to be required at the turf field complex. And currently, we have a temporary approval to have the porta potties at the site into next year. We have to come up with a plan, John, by
I think he's looking,
January.
building inspector's looking for the late spring, early spring.
Early spring, we have to come up with a plan, not necessarily a solution, but a plan for what we're gonna do to accommodate the plumbing code and the building code as far as bathrooms in the turf field. We're looking at different options. We're trying to get some costs associated with it. But for right now, we're okay with the facilities that we have there presently.
Is the plan basically a construction of bathrooms?
I think it's going to have to be something that's going to say to them, we'll be in compliance at a certain time by doing a certain thing.
Okay.
The plumbing code requires a certain number of bathrooms and sinks for each gender as far as bathrooms. The building inspector seems to think that we can apply for a waiver of variance and get it reduced down to a more affordable number. So, again, we can accommodate the public at the fields right now, but down the road, we're going to have to do something differently. We met with Coach Frank Carey and talked about the collaborative efforts between the school department and the recreation department to maintain certain fields, not only at the high school, middle school campus, but also the other fields in town as well. And I think that's being worked out. The big thing that we did was to have a discussion again about the turf field. I think the superintendent's made arrangements to have a representative from
Gale
Associates come out to look at the existing site that we have currently being graded and leveled where the old high school was, and to try to give us some type of certainly a rough estimate of what it would cost to put a turf field, build a turf field in that location. Something without the frills. I mean, we're looking for the field. We don't need lights, we don't need grandstands, we need a facility, a practice field, because right now, again, we've been through this before, but we're really maximizing our use of all of the fields that we have right now, so.
Mr. Venezia, if I could just add,
Yeah, John, jump in,
that
right.
meeting has been scheduled for next Monday at 1.
At 1 o'clock, where are we
Yes.
going to meet, John?
We're going to start in my conference room.
Okay, all right. And he's been very cooperative, worked with us very closely in the past, and again, we're trying to get an idea of what the cost would be. As we've said in the past, trying to build a turf field at that location would be by raising private funds. We're not looking to go to the town, certainly to request any money. So we are, at the same time, we did formulate and put together a turf building committee consisting of Dave Johnson, our athletic director, Mr. Bernard, the superintendent, Mr. LaPrette, the high school principal, Wayne Haddock, our director of building and grounds, Rita Mullen from the recreation department, Mel Webster from the school committee, Chuck Carucci, and hopefully we're going to, after we get an idea of what costs are associated with going forward on this project, we are going to talk to and invite a number of the youth athletic groups representatives to the meeting and see if they want to participate as well. So it's kind of a long shot, but we are trying to get something up and running. Ask them, and see if we can get some momentum. As everybody's aware, the Savings Bank donated $10,000 towards the construction of the field. So I think, and we also talked about the batting cages. We got a cost estimate for batting cages to replace the ones that were taken down with the old school building. We have a good plan, I think, for the fitness area where we can locate the batting cages. And we're looking for some contribution from the Diamond Club and from probably softball as well. But I don't know, John, if you want to fill in anything.
No, I think that last project that you mentioned, Jerry, is moving very quickly. And we actually have an offer for a member of the Diamond Club, Scott Ellis, that's offered to install it free of charge, which
Really?
is about a $3,000 savings.
Installation fee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we, Dave Johnson has been working with the current baseball coach, Eric Ashenbo, and if that order has not yet been placed, it will be placed very
Yeah,
soon.
we had a price, we had an actual price on
We
an
did.
estimate. What was the cost?
It was around, we'd call it $13,000 in total.
$13,000.
Yeah,
And
give
this
or
would be a
take.
facility, obviously, for both baseball and softball.
Baseball, softball could be a teaching station. This
Yeah.
would be in the mezzanine area of the fitness center, and
The upstairs area, so.
the plan is to have that in operation for the spring season
Yeah.
this year.
This will be the first spring where we didn't have the batting facilities available to us,
Right.
so. And I think that's pretty much it. So our major initiative right now is trying to do something with this practice field. Otherwise, as Mr. Bernard had stated earlier in the evening, everything will be prepared down at the site prior to the December 31st, but we will not be able to seed a loom, possibly not even drop the loom in there until the
Right.
spring. Their concern is if we spread the loom in the winter and the late fall, that it's going to be saturated in the spring.
Mhm.
It'll be very difficult to try to go in there and do anything, so they're going to possibly wait until the spring to even spread the loom.
Right.
So we're a year and a half away from getting any type
Exactly.
of a usable field there.
And once again, Mr. Venencia for NORCAM.
Okay, I went to the NORCAM meeting on the 22nd of October, I think. It was a relatively brief meeting. I did convey to the members of the NORCAM board that the school department and the school building committee were disappointed that they weren't able to do something with the camera that we asked for the gymnasium area. One of the things I thought of, John, is perhaps to ask that you put together a letter, maybe restating our request for the camera equipment,
Mhm.
and potentially telling them why we would like it and what type of programming we could afford, what kind of programming we would provide if we had a camera in there, and see if they might reconsider it.
Okay.
So to kind of substantiate our request, I think one of the issues was, what would the quality of the programming be if we did have a camera in there? And I'm thinking obviously athletic events, but you've got the pep rally, you've got student assemblies in there, you've got
Yeah.
the awards night that they've been holding in the gymnasium, right? The
Spring,
athletics.
seasonal awards for the
Right.
three athletic seasons, yeah.
So I think there's a lot of programming you could offer out of the.
Meeting overflow.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We
So
could-
if we could maybe present something, our next meeting at NORCAM is November 19th. And, I'd hope that maybe they would at least reconsider.
If it's okay with the committee, I'll put something together, and as the school committee's liaison, I'll share that with you before it's
sorry.
final, okay?
That's good.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Normally I'd let Mr. Webster do this, but he's not with us tonight. The finance planning team met on October 23rd, and we did a review of the revenue that should be generated for the year, and then a projection of what it could be out for a couple of years. We talked about the budget parameters of, the split of 64-37?
It's been 66-34.
66-34, sorry. And we discussed the high school project. They were curious as to any open issues, if we had a contingency plan, if the monies might run over. I know that there's been a little bit of a talk about that. And the discussion on the little school roof, what the next steps might be and how we could possibly fund it. And there was discussions on the MWRA water project, more along the lines of the avenues that it would be paid under the water rates versus the tax rate. And then we set our next meeting, which is November 20th at 8:15. Let me say that again.
Madam Chairman, I think if I could, I think maybe one other item was the request for kind of a closeout schedule on the project, am I right? On the building project, this building
Yeah,
project?
they were wanting to know when it would be complete in its entirety, but that's we kind of explained up in the air because in order for it to be totally done, all of the landscaping needs to be signed off as well, and we explained that that's kind of a long process.
So Michael Connolly and I did meet with the project managers on Thursday and talked with them about that, and if they could put something together for us essentially to share at the next finance planning team meeting. And it has to do, I think, with any funds that MSBA would withhold, that 5% figure until the completion of the project. So Kevin and Ed Whalen are mapping something out for us that we expect to have for that next meeting, which I think is November 20th, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not sure what they're going to come up with, John, but I know when we closed out the batch, it was probably a year. I think we're looking at a year.
I think they indicated that it would be
Yeah.
quite a while. So
By the time everything's closed out,
Yeah.
the finances are
Right.
wrapped up.
so.
Did you want to add anything else to it?
No, I think it was a good conversation, and they understood what we were, I got the sense that they understood what we were looking for, and it seemed pretty routine, I think, to them because of
Yeah.
their experience with this. So the hope is to have that to share with the finance planning team meeting at that 20th meeting.
Okay. Let's see. We've already done that one. Okay, so the schedule for upcoming subcommittee meetings. The Secondary School Building Committee will meet November 10th at 5:30 here in the Distance Learning Lab. The Athletic Subcommittee meeting, the next one is November 17th. NORCAM, as mentioned previously, is November 19th, and the Finance Planning Team is November 20th. And Superintendent Bernard, if you had any more information or on your administrative report?
I did, Madam Chairman, thank you. Just a couple of things. I think I'm just going to, for as long as there's information to share with you, I'll continue to keep the Little School Roof Project as part of my supplemental report. I did share an email today. On Friday, Michael and I received what we had been hoping to receive, and again, the project manager and Jeff D'Amico and the representatives of the architectural firm HAKS are working very well with us. They've been very responsive to our requests, and they did supply us with a report of about 8 or 9 pages on Friday that I shared out with folks this morning, and scheduled a meeting for this coming Friday at 11 a.m. at the superintendent's conference room to review that report and to look at the cost options based on the roof materials. So the folks that have been kind of a part of this discussion from the beginning are coming together on Friday. I know Mr. Bowers has indicated he's able to come, and that's good. So we will be looking at that report, and that's going to be an important piece of information because there's going to need to be a decision on what material the town wants to choose to do this project, and then ultimately that drives the cost. So
Is that information going to be briefed to us as the school committee?
you got it today. You got the report today. I think ultimately the decision is going to be on the school department side. That would be my belief. So I think you're going to have to have a very important role in that decision. I just wanted to remind people of 2 events coming up. We have the President John Adams Impressionist. That's coming up on Thursday, November 12th at 6:30 here in the middle high school. As of today, there were 122 people signed up for that free event, which is being sponsored by the Reading Cooperative Bank. That'll be, again, in our Performing Arts Center. Fun night for those who want to attend. And also, I was asked by the Friends of Hornet Productions if I could just make mention of their first holiday marketplace that's taking place in Main Street here in the middle high school on Saturday, November 14th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is kind of a lot of local craft vendors. There will be student musical performances. Santa Claus will be visiting at noon. There will be games and crafts, craft room, and a viewing of the Polar Express for children. So just a kind of a fun event for the community that Friends of Hornet Productions is sponsoring to help offset some of the costs associated with the arts programs across the district, particularly at the middle school. And then the last thing I had was, I believe I shared with you as an email a letter that Dr. Daly and I had written and sent out on October 22nd to families across the district as well as the staff on information that had come our way very shortly before October 27th regarding kind of some of what Dr. Daly covered in his presentation tonight about the park test and decisions to be made on that in this month, and also the release of scores. So again, I think I had sent this out electronically, but I just thought for you to have a copy, and if you had any questions about that communication. And that's all of the information I had to share, Madam Chairman.
All right. For future business, we have our next scheduled school committee meeting on November 16th, 7 PM here in the Distance Learning Lab. And then again on November 30th and December 14th, both at 7 PM. And that is it. So without further ado.
Can I just make-
So, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Mel and I read your evaluations.
Oh, yes. I
Your
did.
superintendent evaluations.
What about it?
You don't need the whole packet, just the one part, correct? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks for reminding me.
Okay. Your superintendent evaluation, get your.
No, I have it here. Madam Chair, one more thing. I did want to mention that after last meeting, I did have the opportunity to talk to Mark Favreau about the Charles Jones, honoring Charles Jones, and I think they were very amenable to the main hallway going from Main Street down through the middle school, so that they were very happy to be able to do that. So I think maybe at the next meeting, we can have a motion to approve honoring Charles Jones by naming the main hallway or the main corridor of the middle school Charles Jones Way. And I know that they're anxious to come up with the funding to put the plaques up, maybe one at the main entrance to the middle school and another one on Main Street.
That would be nice.
And I think the next step after that, Mr. Superintendent, would be to make sure that we have a warrant article for the June town meeting.
I have a quick question. It came up on Halloween. Is the Maskers Club fully authorized under the program?
So the Maskers is a student activity club, which is a fully approved club through the school committee, through the principal. So they're a school-sanctioned program, which is a little bit separate from the
Boosters.
Music
group.
Boosters.
Those are separate organizations. But they are school-sponsored.
There were some young folks who showed up at some people's houses with, saying they were from Maskers and collecting from Maskers. And the people gave me a call and asked me if that was legitimate or not, so I couldn't remember that.
It is.
There was a separate
Yeah.
organization that did that. It's okay.
Julie asked, just as a reminder, if you've had your superintendent evaluation, if you could
Are you
pass
collecting
it
them tonight?
over.
Standing in for Mel.
Any other thoughts, questions, discussions? All right, I'll have, entertain a motion to end the meeting.
Madam Chair, motion to adjourn? I'll second.
There you go, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.